Tanner stood with his eyes closed. The day had finally come. It was the test. All the studying, all the paperwork, it all led to this moment. He stood in the basement of WIMT, Worldwide Institute for Medical Technology, with his team. Well, some of his team. Claire, the intern, had gone to get some drinks. Everyone else was fidgeting. Tanner could tell their location by the different noises. Jared folded paper behind him. Joe shuffled from foot to foot on Tanner's right, probably standing by the elevator. Caleb would drop a pencil every now and again. He was, no doubt, spinning the thing. Tanner himself was lying down in an exosuit. He was running his gloved finger over a ridge where his visor, when it was up, would connect to the rest of the suit. One other person was in the room. "Tanner, are you ready?" Harrowing asked. Tanner popped his eyes open. Harrowing was leaning over the computers by the elevator. He was to control the extractor, which sat in the middle of the room. Its large cylindrical shape wasn't necessary. It could have been a lot smaller, but Harrowing was preparing for any outcome, including an explosion, which was about as likely to happen as an elephant not stepping on your toes as you dance the waltz. "Has anyone seen my visor? I can't find it," Tanner said. Everyone groaned. Just the response Tanner was looking for. There are bad jokes, and then there are stupid comments. According to Tanner's research, this was a stupid comment. But finding the line where a stupid comment became a bad joke is a task worth doing. "It's above your hair, Tanner. I expect you to stay focused today," Harrowing said, unfazed. He never was one for comedy. It had always been Tanner's goal to make Harrowing laugh, even though his last name literally meant distressing. And Harrowing lived up to his name. He had seen Harrowing smile once, but Tanner wasn't what caused it. Smiling suited Harrowing's face far too well for him to be so dull. Tanner turned back toward the extractor. It was a pill-shaped compartment, larger than any human, so it should be able to fit anyone, unless the man looked like a giant slug with no brain. Not having a brain would have to describe any man who would enter the extractor. It was a wonder they had found someone who would enter the extractor. With a name like Extractor, it sounded more like a horror machine than a machine that should provide an antidote for depression. Still, it was a good description of what it should do. Bringing a dead body back to life is what it looks like it's supposed to do. Frankenstein's contraption is still a better name than Extractor, Tanner mumbled. "Tanner, it's just about time to go to the bridge. John, the volunteers arrived. Bring him in. The systems are all looking good," Harrowing called, placing down his phone. Tanner turned and went toward a smaller contraption. It looked like a nicer pill. Smaller, like a peanut. Its wires were concealed. Its paint was good. If the volunteer saw it, there's no doubt he would want to get in this machine instead. However, it was for a different purpose. It sent you to Wonderland. Tanner entered the bridge. Harrowing really had to get better at naming things. The bridge was a cool machine. It fit the exosuit Tanner was wearing. They were not sure if the dimension Tanner was about to enter could support life, but so far, the tests were positive. Still, it's better to be safe than dead. The realm was still in need of a name, and Tanner was not going to let Harrowing name this place. With his skill, it would probably be called the Sphere Dimension. Lights flashed, startling Tanner, and the Sphere realm appeared before him. Glass spheres floated lazily all around him, passing through a purple haze. The bridge was mostly gone. It was represented on this side by a square of iron bars. Glass spheres floated all around him, lazily passing through the purple haze. The bridge was mostly gone. It was represented on this side by a square of iron bars. These made it possible for Tanner to get back. There were some strange things nearby. Most of this dimension was made of just the purple haze and glass spheres, but directly in front of Tanner was the extractor. On this side, it looked like a pill as well. The biggest problem with this realm is all the spheres look exactly the same. Each sphere represented a person back on Valere. Harrowing looked the exact same as Joe. The only difference between the spheres was the colors, which were in a constant state of change. Some spheres were mostly blue, others were mostly red. There was a mostly brown one, a half orange one, and a mostly yellow one. Yellow was the color Tanner was looking for. It had been agreed by the team that yellow was the color most likely to be joy. Tanner still thought the color of joy was going to be brown. Everything grows from dirt, and dirt's brown. We can't assume happiness means growth, Harrowing had said, so Tanner was looking for yellow. At least this would correlate yellow with an emotion, if the extractor even worked. Moving was also hard in this dimension. Gravity here, decided Tanner, was like an uncaring teenager. It didn't want to work, which was fine because there was no floor. Just glass spheres and purple haze. So Tanner pushed off the iron bars of the bridge. Those wouldn't move. Luckily, it seemed to be anchored to a location on the other side. But the spheres did not match the location of their fleshy counterparts. This place needed more study. Maybe there was a hidden factor that anchored the spheres to something back in Valere. Tanner bounced off another glass sphere toward the contraption, which represented the extractor on this end. Another oddity was inanimate objects were not represented here, unless it had come through or had a lasting connection to a bridge. And this is Tanner. He will be monitoring your vitals. Say hi, Tanner. Harrowing's voice sounded over the built-in comm unit. They had gotten comms working again. Talking with others in this dimension turned out to be quite simple. Tanner still chuckled about it. He had placed a comm unit in the bridge after Harrowing had gone to the dimension, and soon after, he said, "Hi." Harrowing had screamed. "Hi." Tanner giggled at the memory. "Don't mind him. He's the best for his job," Harrowing said. "I need to ask, sir, is this going to be safe?" A new voice said. The volunteer. Tanner thought about the past tests. There was only so much they could do. They had tried damaging the spheres on this side with lots of things. Tanner's favorite being explosives. But none of the spheres had been damaged, not even a crack. This time, they hoped to affect both the sphere and the person they represent at the same time. Hopefully, then, they could achieve the desired effect. Bottled emotions. Tanner already had a name, which Harrowing couldn't refuse for whatever came out of that person. But the man had asked if it was safe. "Yes, it's safe," Tanner said, and he believed it. It had to be, and if not, he was here to do what he could. Tanner felt his nerves return. It was like they were monkeys banging on a bomb. They didn't know what was happening in this place. All they had were theories, and somehow, Jared was able to convince the government to allow a human test despite the lack of actual evidence. What if this all goes horribly wrong? Focus. If we all focus, then nothing will go wrong. A sphere entered the extractor on his side. The volunteer, hopefully, his color was orange at the moment. The rest of the group was supposed to tell jokes or something to make the man happy. Though, so far, he was probably scared, which means orange is for fear? Weird color for fear. Shouldn't it be purple or green? Tanner could hear the pitiful attempts of the crew to make the man laugh. "What makes the best joke?" Caleb said in a weak voice. That wasn't even a punchline. "What did the horse say when he tripped?" "Help! I've fallen and I can't giddy up." Jared tried. It was really bad. "Why do fish always sing off key?" "Because you can't Tuna fish? Claire tried. She was better, but nothing happened to the sphere in the machine. What kind of horses go out after dusk? Harrowing read so fast it was hard to decipher. Nightmares. Harrowing sounded disappointed with this joke, as if he expected something good to come from the internet. Jared tried again. What's the best way to carve wood? Whittle by whittle. Timing! Caleb screamed as loud as he could, the punchline to his forgotten joke. Tanner flinched in his suit. The sphere was growing darker. Major Tom to ground control. I think your jokes are worse than mine, Tanner said. He heard Harrowing grunt from the other side. Relax. Think of a time when you were most happy. Maybe when you married your wife? Harrowing said. She's dead, the volunteer said. Harrowing went silent. Well, even I don't want to be here now, Jared's voice said. You're not helping, Jared, Harrowing said. Listen, as I've said, this test is tied to your emotional status. We need you to be happy in order to calibrate the test. So, what makes you happy? Shrooms! Tanner yelled at the top of his lungs. Laughing came over the comm unit. Shrooms always make me happy, Tanner said. A few of the nearby spheres grew lighter and started to yellow. Tanner, you've never had shrooms, Harrowing said. Hints of yellow were starting to creep into the volunteer's sphere. I don't mean eating them, just messing with them. You know, throwing them at my grouchy team leader. The way they bounce off your face is so happy. It's like they asked to be thrown again, Tanner said. More yellow swirls with the volunteer's sphere. Comics make me happy, Jared said. Makes sense, Jared. You always seem to like paper way too much. Careful, though. Paper can give some nasty cuts, Tanner said. Sounds like my last ex-girlfriend, Joe said. Do we have two members of the group attracted to paper? Sounds like everyone else is on shrooms, Tanner said. Then, considering, maybe this test isn't safe due to all the drugs. I'm rather sure you're the only one on a drug, Tanner, Harrowing said. Oh, I agree. All I see here is glass balls. The only thing missing is classical music, and it would be a party here, Tanner said, glancing at the volunteer sphere, which was completely yellow now. Secret code for he's happy? Tanner said. Makes sense. He's laughing at you. The machine near Tanner started moving. A real glass cylinder was taken from its metal casing and applied to the man's sphere. The color flooded into the glass rod. It was strange. On the other side, the glass rod would be a glass bottle. It was empty when it came here, but now... Harrowing? You're going to love what I'm seeing, Tanner said. What do you see? An excited feminine voice said. The color has transferred to the rod. It's entering the bridge right now, Tanner said. Wow, it worked? How are you doing, Harry? Joe said. I'm fine, but I think the jokes have worn off, the volunteer said. Wait, your name is Harry? Tanner said. Yeah, the volunteer replied. The comm unit abruptly turned off. Apparently, Harrowing didn't want him to make his next comment. Probably for the best. It was a hairy subject. Tanner started to make his way back to the bridge. They were probably going to name the stuff now, and Tanner couldn't miss this opportunity. He couldn't recommend the name from here, especially since he was muted. Back to the bridge, hit the transfer button. Poof! Back in the testing chamber. Sure enough, everyone was crowded around the extractor. Even Harry. Some of them were holding drinks now. Is that what we think it is? Claire asked. When did she arrive? She held 2 drinks. She was attractive, with tan skin and short brown hair. However, she was too young for Tanner's taste. She stood beside Jared to her left and Harrowing to her right. Tanner filled the space next to Harrowing, placing Joe on his right. Joe was the tallest and strongest of the group. If they were in a D&D campaign, he would be the barbarian, but his intellect was unexpectedly high. On the other side of him was Harry, who had red hair and was clean-shaven. His skin was sunburnt red, as though it was trying to imitate his hair. On the other side of him was Caleb, who was a dreamer. He was the shortest of the group, and his thick blonde hair, with all of its cowlicks and thick glasses, gave him the appearance of what he was, a nerd. However, he was the most fun of the group. He laughed at Tanner's jokes nearly all of the time. "Yep, that's Vehemence," Caleb said. "That punk is trying to steal my thunder." "Vehemence?" Harrowing said. "What does vehemence mean again?" "It's another word for emotion," Claire said. "The display of strong feelings," Joe said, looking at his phone. "That's the definition." "Yep, emotion on display. A good name, "Nope, terrible name. Bad. You should feel bad. It doesn't have any substance. It's already losing popularity, especially with the young adults," Tanner said. "What would you recommend?" Caleb said, annoyed. "It needs something descriptive. It's new yet old. It needs a name similar to what it is. It will be called—" Tanner was silent for a second. "Pause for dramatic effect," Harrowing said, monotone. "Exactly. Sentimand," Tanner said. Harrowing cocked an eyebrow. "I like it," Claire said. "Ha-ha, she fell into my trap," Tanner thought. "Stop flirting. It would never work between us," Tanner said. "I do too," Harrowing said, interrupting Claire. "How rude." It was fun to see her blush. "Does it work?" Harry finally asked. He seemed to understand something huge had happened. "Well, let's see," Tanner said, grabbing the bottle. It was cool to the touch. "Hold up. Harry has a point. We don't really know what we have here. Whoever takes it has to at least understand the risks," Harrowing said. "Okay, Harrowing, you can take it first," Tanner said. If he didn't, Harrowing could probably go on for another 3 minutes on the proper procedure for dealing with Sentimand. Harrowing stopped talking and squinted his eyes, considering. He took the bottle. Then he took out a glass vial from his lab coat. Yep, he seems to always have at least one of those. He poured a bit of the clear blue liquid into the vial. Everyone tensed up. Harrowing shrugged, seemingly dismissing a thought, and downed the liquid. Harrowing smiled. Tanner had never been able to get even a smirk out of the man. "It works!" Tanner cheered. "We've done the impossible," Jared said.